James Griffiths, The Great Firewall of China, How to Build and Control an Alternative Version of the Internet. In The Great Firewall of China, How to Build and Control an Alternative Version of the Internet, author James Griffiths discusses how China has morphed the Internet into a tool for spying on its citizens and curtailing dissent. The book takes a deep dive into the history and intricacies of China's internet censorship, with the author presenting striking examples of how the regime controls and exploits its digital landscape. With insights into how the Great Firewall was initially created to monitor online speech, Griffiths details troubling examples of how the Chinese government enforces compliance, both on web users and global tech giants operating within its borders.
China's cyber censorship. James Griffiths in his book reveals the dark side of China's internet censorship. Instead of the anticipated transformation of bringing free speech and democracy, the internet has become a tool used by the authoritarian regime to track citizens and stifle dissent. Griffiths' account sheds light on the techniques employed by China to control cyberspace and presents eye-opening examples of the government's influence on the internet. Beijing's control over the internet. The Chinese government initially viewed the internet as a niche tool for academics. However, as internet access grew rapidly, officials began to see it as a threat to their authority. In 1996, Premier Li Peng signed an order banning citizens from using the internet to challenge the government. Today, the government monitors online activity to ensure censorship and control over its citizens. Breaking through China's Great Firewall. In China, the Great Firewall blocks banned content, and those who use virtual private networks to access it can face police action. Internet censorship in China is pervasive yet unobtrusive. However, in 2015, Li Gang created an anti-surveillance protocol that breached the firewall. The police threatened him with arrest unless he destroyed his creation. In the 1990s, 10% of Chinese internet users found ways to bypass the Great Firewall, but by 2010, it fell to just 3%. China's chokehold on the internet. Chinese authorities can exert control on internet access and free speech within minutes, as demonstrated by the arrest of a news reporter who posted a pro-American piece on an US-based website under a pseudonym. Moreover, in response to a riot at a factory involving Uyghur people, the country's government blocked 20 million people's access to the internet. Tech giants' compliance. In the early 2000s, American tech giants entered the Chinese market but buckled under government pressure. Yahoo surrendered user records, leading to a journalist's imprisonment, while Microsoft silenced a regime critic. Google's Chinese search engine was re-engineered to criticize Falun Gong. As Silicon Valley companies retreated, Chinese tech giants thrived. Baidu took Google's place, and Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube were all banned. This evidence shows that these companies care more about profit than protecting users from censorship. Chinese tech firms under state control. Chinese technology giants, including Baidu, Alibaba, Huawei, and Tencent, have aligned themselves with the government's ideological views, going as far as employing registered members of the ruling party to monitor the internet and develop a social credit score system, which determines individuals' adherence to the party's rules. The system uses WeChat and Alipay to collect data on people's activities, including their associations with untrustworthy citizens. A high score earns perks, while a low score leads to negative consequences such as denied services or higher prices. This reinforces the government's control over citizens and could impede internal efforts to challenge the system. Weibo, the voice of the people. The Chinese government's cover-up of a high-speed train crash that killed 40 people sparked a wave of criticism on the Twitter-style site Weibo. Despite attempts to control content, Weibo allowed citizens to voice their grievances through codes like May 35, referring to the Tiananmen massacre. The government enlisted Big Versus to promote socialist ideals, but venture capitalist Charles Schwer refused and was arrested for his dissent. Weibo still exists as a platform, however, users have found ways to navigate the restrictive government filters. Russia's Great Firewall. Russia's attempt to establish its own Great Firewall was triggered by the 2016 Panama Papers release, which implicated a Putin ally in offshore accounts. To achieve this, the country procured censorship technology from Chinese telecom company Huawei, enabling it to transition to a censored internet model similar to that of China. Russian tech entrepreneurs were not as compliant as their Chinese counterparts in accepting state interference, as demonstrated by Pavel Durov's refusal to shut down VK activists' protest against Putin. When security officials failed to arrest him, he fled the country. China's Suppression Unveiled. Griffiths' book paints a dystopian picture of how China uses technology to suppress its population and how other nations plan to emulate them. His writing is concise and punchy with a welcome shortage of elaborating adverbs. Griffiths avoids amplifying the horrors he describes, instead showing a flourish of technical detail by being specific yet not overwhelming. Through specific examples, he melds what readers need to know into both the overall picture and everyday life. This is not a Huxley or Dick novel, but a warning that China's suppression is too real and spreading worldwide.
Griffiths' compelling book illustrates how the Chinese government has transformed the internet into a formidable weapon to control its populace. Despite early hopes that the internet would herald democracy and free speech in China, the author's findings showed that the regime's approach to censoring cyberspace has been ruthlessly effective. James Griffiths brings to the fore the chilling impact on both the Chinese people and the global tech industry, as American companies like Google and Facebook have bent under government pressure. Alarmingly, China's model of internet control has inspired other governments, such as Russia, to implement similar measures. Griffiths' stark portrayal serves as a warning about the repercussions of relinquishing the internet's liberating potential to autocrats.